Hey guys. So yeah, this was a pleasant surprise. Pleasant surprise. I pretty much wake up in order to find that Eden Zero Chapter 131 is already released, and yeah, I don't know if it's one of those things where it was released like late last night or released today or whatnot. But honestly, I'm not. You're not gonna hear me complaining about it. Honestly, like at least I won't have to wait at least I won't have to wait pretty much late in the day in order to review it. Now, whether or not this is gonna be a one-time thing is something else entirely. But yeah, I'm kind of all for it if the chapters get released a little earlier like this. So yeah, but anyway, with that being said, let's get into the nitty gritty because we basically start the chapter with a flashback, Ziggy teaching Shura, and just within this one section alone, there are so many little nuggets of info in order to chew on. The first one is that we get the reveal of the reason why Ziggy had taught Shura Satan gravity was more or less on request from Nero, because apparently Shura couldn't inherit his father's power. And that is an interesting detail in the sense where it reveals to us that in the process of passing on one's ether gear to another person, the body has to be compatible with the power itself. And when someone like passes on their power to another person, it's not always a guarantee that that person is going to inherit that power. In fact, the ether gear itself might even like the training in order to inherit the power might even reject it. So it's a nice little limitation. I like showing that not everyone can obtain these powers. Of course now at the same time, it's also just got me curious of what Nero's powers are if they were if they're incompatible with Shura. Like what kind of power does what kind of like or was it even Shura's bot or maybe or possibly was it what something had to do with Shura's body? Like, yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to what the circumstances, whether it's something to do with the power itself or Shura's body or whatnot. But yeah, um, the other thing I like about this flashback, obviously, that gives us a bit more of a broader context of Nero and Ziggy's friendship, and as well as respect for each other, which obviously makes what's going on with Ziggy right now all the more tragic in a certain way, I guess you could say. And but I also like that this chapter is more or less shown that it more or less shows that through the reveal of basically Shura being Nero's adopted son. It's kind of one of those interesting looks into Ziggy's mind as to what he was thinking at the time when he when he adopted Shiki. Like a lot of Ziggy's motivation for adopting Shiki was more or less in part pretty much due to Nero adopting Shura, and just him at the time pretty much seeing value. He had seen value in what it was to in human life at the time. So it's just it is an interesting like mind. It is interesting to see just how I how I think deep down it showed. I think this flashback more than anything showed that I think their approach is still good within Shiki, but unfortunately it's a lot of that has been consumed by by the dark side of Satan gravity itself, just in the same way that I can only assume it's happened to Shura as well. And at this point, it's one of those things where Mashima just keeps piling on the parallels, and especially how, even though it's more pronounced in the present, you can see little hints of Shura's childhood that he had already begun to give into the darkness of Satan gravity. So obviously that set up even more, so that obviously sets up even more the parallel of light and darkness when Shiki is going to ultimately confront Shura. But even more so, we're getting an even darker parallel between Ziggy and Shura in this chapter, in the sense where even though both have surrendered themselves to the dark side of Satan gravity, they have you can see just by one being like a robot and one being a human, they have very opposite views of pretty much supremacy. For example, like Schur's idea of supremacy is basically human. His humans need to pretty much rule over this world and basically oppress or destroy robots. Whereas with Ziggy, it's the idea of machine supremacy, and humankind must be oppressed and destroyed. So it's really basically two sides of the exact same fucking coin in a way, and both are at this point have become very dangerous rogue elements that I don't know how Shiki's gonna deal with, seeing as how he's the only one who hasn't given into that temptation, and as the only one who's held on to the light of Satan gravity. So yeah, it's I honestly don't know. It's gonna be one way or another. This is one way or another. It's going to be up to Shiki in the end whether or not he, like, the only thing I can think is, like, it's going to be up to Shiki in order to save both. I think, like, I don't know how he's going to do that, or hell, I don't know if I know that Ziggy is going to have some redemption arc probably, but I don't know if Shura is even going to have a redemption arc or not. Like, this guy seems to have this guy from birth seems to have, like, been giving himself to, like, the darkness almost, but we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I've got the only thing I'm curious about are how the parallels between Shiki's light and Shura's darkness are going to play out here, I guess, right now. With that said, time to talk about the ending of this chapter. But even before we get into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about how we've essentially entered into a bit of a mini training arc for the Eden Zero crew with this chapter, which obviously I love just on principle. Like, I absolutely love it when a pretty much manga like pretty much dives into these training arc things and into these training sessions or training arcs and whatnot. And I love that we're just getting to see this. But one thing specifically I love about this training in particular is how it essentially dives into the core of how the power of ether gear is only as strong as the person's body. So it's a subtle thing, but it's one where I do like how it's great how Mashima has essentially established these powers are reliant on the wielder's physical abilities, and it's something I haven't really appreciated until now, but it's a great twist on a nostalgic trope on how the power you wield is only as strong as the strength of your body. It's again, I think in a lot of ways it's a very old anime nostalgic trope, but it's one that I think that I do like that he's harkening back to in this chapter. Of course, the bigger thing to talk about, obviously, is how Ziggy is pretty much in the house. Like Ziggy pretty much pops up right the fuck out of nowhere, and he looks like he's ready in order to destroy everything and everyone he comes across right now. What happened to? One thing I gotta know is what the fuck happened to Zenolith? Is he okay? Because I think if I understood it correctly, I think he just got either got knocked aside or either got knocked aside or I think Ziggy like took control of his body. I don't know, but wherever Zenolith is, get him the fuck out of there. Just with Ziggy with Ziggy's reappearance here, it's one of those things where for me personally, between the Return to Granville arc and the Foresta arc, this chapter definitely just from that one panel of Ziggy like showing up, that in itself reinforced the thing I fear the most about Ziggy, which is his ability of hacking into computer systems and machines. Because this just means he can be anywhere at any time, which I'm assuming the only limitation being he has to be within the vicinity of the Eden Zero itself, or just any kind of piece of technology that's near our heroes. Like, as long as he's near any kind of technology near our heroes, he can stream his consciousness into them and pretty much appear right in front of them. So yeah, but it's one of those things that makes him the most dangerous right now, and with Ziggy's arrival, I can only hope Elsie isn't too much farther behind him, because they are going to need backup now. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and also Crunchyroll. Dead Night of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.